If you could only eat one last meal before you died, what would it be? Death row inmate Samuel Russel Flippen chose popcorn shrimp, Hushpuppies, French fries, and a Coke. This is Death Row Diner. For the fries, we're going to do triple cooked fries, a recipe I took from Ethan Chlebowski's YouTube channel. He says that he got it from Serious Eats, and they presumably got it from Heston Blumenthal, who I believe invented the technique. Typically, I wouldn't trust something created by somebody named Heston Blumenthal. I mean, that's a private school frat boy name if I've ever heard one, but these fries are undeniably good. So anyway, peel and cut a couple of potatoes into the sizes and shapes that French fries should be. So the first cook is going to be in a pot of boiling water. Gonna add a bit of salt in there, and the super important thing is vinegar. The vinegar, it helps the potatoes to retain a certain amount of pectin, I believe it is, which helps them to keep and retain their shape really well. We've all had mashed potatoes where you boil the potatoes in water and then they get mashy. But we don't want that. We want them to hold their shape. And as you can see here, the vinegar magically makes them keep that shape. Even if you wiggle them around quite a bit, they hold together really well. So after boiling for 10 minutes, we're going to take them out, lay them out on a paper towel lined baking sheet, and let them rest for a good half an hour or so. Now that we're done with the water, we're going to start with the oil. Bring out Old Blue and fill it with your favorite cooking oil of choice, as long as it isn't like olive oil or sesame oil or, pumpkin seed oil, something weird like that. And fire her up while we start working on the rest. In the meantime, we're going to start prepping our popcorn shrimp. I couldn't find any of those little itty bitty shrimp, so I just got regular sized ones, and we're just gonna cut them into smaller pieces to make them more popcorn shrimp appropriate. And we're just gonna season them with a pinch of salt, always a pinch of salt. And now that they're salted, we're just gonna let them sit for a few minutes. Now we're gonna make a dredge for the schrompers, so get a cup of flour. And about 1 TSP or so of Cajun seasoning, roasted garlic and pepper seasoning, paprika, maybe a couple TSPs of paprika, and don't forget salt and pepper. Give that a good whisk together, or a spoon together in this case, and put a few spoonfuls of it in a Ziploc bag. Roll the sides of the bag down so you don't get shrimp gunk all over the zippy part, and then put your schrompers in the bag with the dredge. Seal it up, toss them around a bit, and let them rest in the fridge while we do the other stuff. We're also going to make an egg mixture for the shrimp, so we're going to attempt to crack an egg with one hand and fail miserably, get more shell than egg in the bowl. Try to use the rest of the shell to pick up the shell that's in there. Almost got it. There we go. Add in a big splash of milk and a little bit of all those seasonings from before. This time we're going to whisk with a fork instead of a spoon. Now time for round 2 for the potatoes. Going to check to make sure our oil's good and hot around 400 degrees or so. We're going to load up a spider spoon with some of our fries and slowly lower them in. Oh god, that's getting a little bit crazy there. So there's a lot of water in these potatoes still, so that's going to react violently with the oil. So just go nice and slow and carefully in there, a little bit at a time. The craziness will die down pretty quickly. And we're only going to cook them for 1 minute, and then we're going to fish them out and put them on another sheet tray lined with paper towel. Repeat with the next spoonful. I did it in 2 batches just because of how many there were. So we're going to let them rest for another half hour or so, let some of the moisture relax out of them, and then we're going to fry them again, which will make them extra crispy. So we're going to add half a cup of milk to a bowl and a splash of vinegar, and we're going to let it sit for a few minutes. I've never had a hush puppy before, let alone made one, so I'm gonna take an amalgamation of recipes I've found online and omit the onions, because, you know, no onions on this channel. From what I understand, hush puppies are basically just little deep-fried cornbread balls, so that's what we're gonna do. So add a cup of flour, a cup of cornmeal, a couple TBSPs of sugar, half a TSP of baking powder, half a TSP of baking soda, and a little paprika, plus a bit of salt and pepper. And if you ever have any doubts, just remember, you can do it, as the kids say. Back to the wet stuff, we're gonna add a TBSP or two of vegetable oil, and 1 egg. Oh, much better on the cracking this time. As you can see, I've stuck with the fork for the whisking. It makes a much better whisk than a spoon does. Of course, you could just use a whisk, but, you know. Anyway, add the wet to the dry and fork whisk it together. Now we're gonna fry these puppies, so get your oil back up to 365 or so, and we're gonna start dropping them in by the spoonful. As they start to brown, fish them out and lay them on another sheet tray covered in paper towel. They look pretty good for something I've never made or eaten before. Back to the shrimp, we're going to take our lightly floured shrimp and put them all in the wet egg mixture. Maybe putting them all in at once wasn't the best idea, but too late now. Then pick them up and add them to the rest of the flour mixture. Toss them around as best you can. I decided to go back to the spoon for shrimp whisking. This is around when I realized there's probably a bit too much of the liquid. There doesn't seem to be enough flour to actually coat them and make them all dry on the outside. I don't know if that's gonna be a problem or not. We're gonna find out. Alrighty, we're gonna drop these guys into the oil, trying to separate them as best as we can. These are gonna cook pretty fast. It should only take a few minutes once they all get in there. Oh yeah, look at that. Golden and crispy. And like with the other stuff, we're gonna let them drain on a baking sheet lined with paper towel. I am running out of baking sheets and paper towels. Look at that. That looks pretty good. Doesn't even look that weird considering how the breading didn't really stick to it properly. Back to the fries. We're gonna double check and make sure our oil's up to around 400 degrees or so, and it's time for their final fry. They're gonna need about 3 to 5 minutes in there. What you're gonna end up with after all this is super golden, super crispy fries. They're not super dark, they're not floppy at all. They're honestly on the level with McDonald's fries. Maybe even better. Once they're looking golden and crispy, take them out and put them in a bowl lined with paper towel. I'm seriously running out of paper towel. Also running out of bowls, I'm using a colander instead. And make sure to give them a nice sprinkling of salt before you toss them while they're still hot. At this point, the shrimp are cold, and if we've learned anything by now, it's that frying things multiple times makes them better, so we're gonna throw them in for another minute or so. If they weren't crispy before, they're sure as heck gonna be now. Once they're all done, it's finally time to plate up. And there we have it, a big old plate of fried food. It looks like it would be a little one note, but with the addition of ketchup for the fries and seafood / cocktail sauce for the shrimp, that brought a lot of much needed acidity that really balanced it all out. I gotta say, this is a lot better than I was expecting. I mean, I expected it to be good, of course. Who doesn't love just a big plate of deep fried goodness? But it actually worked together really well. And the hush puppies were, you know, not super remarkable. A little on the dry side. Maybe they're made for people who like onions. Maybe my hush puppy day in the sun has not yet come, but they were good enough. Would I make them again? Probably not, but the rest of it's all pretty darn good. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10.